to the Sweet 16 reaction show. Tonight we'll be covering the first two rounds and our reactions to those games, the exciting matchups that happened. Not a lot of upsets. Josh and I were just talking before the show about it. What was the stat line, Josh? There was not many teams below 12 making it to the Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah, I think it was the first time since 2017 was the year that no one above a 12 advanced out of the first round. I think it was like the sixth time ever since the tournament expanded to 64 as well.
That is
Would have been
depressing.
1985. So
Guys, we got to go to
definitely an
96 teams. Got to expand the tournament.
I mean, might as well, right?
Yeah, you can't complain about UNC getting in when you got too many teams.
Yeah, and we'll touch a little bit on that. But then after the round of 32, after we get down to the Sweet 16, we'll be covering the Sweet 16 forward, going our Elite Eight picks to Final Four to our crowned individual national champions. Without further ado, guys, in your mind, the first round, craziest game coming out of round one. What do you think about round one as an entirety? Were the games entertaining you? What do you guys think?
Well, I think everyone's biggest shock of the first round is Mizzou. I personally had them going to the Final Four. I think there were a lot of people that were very high on Mizzou this year. They played a very hard SEC schedule. They had beaten Florida already this year. Going into the tournament, I did not see them losing first weekend at all, let alone, being taken out in the first round. It was just a little bit of a shock to me.
I want to say Mizzou as well because, if you look at the bracket, like Pat and I were talking about this earlier, it's just been chalk. It's been land. Like, the most dramatic game we've seen happened just last night with arguably the travel of the year, people are saying nowadays.
Yeah.
But if that's the most exciting game we've had.
Sports are not legal in college. That's all I'm going to say.
For me, I could care less who won that game, honestly. I'm just saying, if that's the most exciting game we've seen to date, minus maybe the lone call by Wisco, I don't know. Round one was pretty boring. I mean, UCSD didn't do anything to your Michigan boys, and Yale didn't do anything to A&M.
I think you got to throw in Clemson because Clemson's a team that I think a lot of people were high on. I know they were going up against one of those scrappy high win total mid-majors, but Clemson and the ACC really fell flat outside Duke. And I think Clemson was one of those teams that a lot of the metrics really liked them. A lot of people I was seeing had them as a sneaky team that could cause some carnage down the path. And then for them to come out and score 13 points in the first half is ridiculous because we saw what they were actually capable of. They put up 54, I believe, in the second half, but they just dug a massive hole early. And they were a team that I think could have taken down Purdue in round two and could have given Houston a rough game in the upcoming Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that Drake-Missouri game, crazy enough. I'm going to go one seed lower and go that Memphis-Colorado State game. For a Colorado State team to kind of go into this the tournament and win two games like they did, very impressive for a team like that. Or get to the second round. Almost three to get to the Sweet 16, but I mean, we'll talk about that. I thought that was a travel. I had Maryland moving on in my bracket. But my girlfriend's dad got his graduate degree at Colorado State, so I was kind of in between. I didn't really care which team won, but to see a 12 seed move on to the Sweet 16, especially with the personal connection, would have been pretty cool to see. I thought the play out of Unique Clifford in that first game, 14 points. He had 4 personal fouls, which I don't think is really good. He had 1 steal, six assists, 8 rebounds. And he shot pretty well. He had 38 minutes. He's one of their captains. But he had a really good night versus the Maryland Terrapins, and obviously didn't work out. But I thought that was a very interesting game. Another game that many people thought would be an upset in the first round, UNC San Diego versus a Michigan team. It was close at the end, but the Wolverines were able to pull it out. And then obviously the subsequent Yale and Texas A&M game. I actually, in one of my other brackets, I had both UNC San Diego and Yale moving on versus an A&M Texas.
I had
You know,
both of those in our pool we have right now. I was
oh
upset.
wow, okay.
In our with Josh Penn and I, we all had both of those making it past the first round.
What were your guys' reasoning for that? What I mean, the Wolverines obviously have played good over these past two games. They've shown prowess. They've shown, especially in the A&M game, the ability to come back, to fight back like they have kind of during the season. What'd you guys see out of A&M and and Michigan in that first round that made you pick San Diego and Yale?
The turnover margin for Michigan, San Diego was the number one thing for me. Michigan, one of the worst teams in the country, probably the worst team in the tournament when it came to turnovers.
Bro is
And
decked out.
San Diego was number one in the country in turnover margin. It's not
It
a
was
match
shocking.
made in heaven. And then for Yale, Texas A&M, Yale, there's a stat called kill shots, which is how many 10-0 runs a team can go on versus how many they give up. Yale was one of the best teams throughout the season at going on kill shot runs and not giving them up. So I was going for that they would go on a couple in that game. Didn't end up happening there.
I
Definitely.
personally, I had Michigan going to where they are now, getting to the Sweet 16. Unfortunately, I think they're going to get knocked out by Auburn. But man, wouldn't it be sweet to be able to play Sparty in the Elite Eight,
Yeah.
take them down. You can't beat a team 3 times. Never heard of it. And except for the year they beat us twice, and then in the Big Ten tournament, which is tragic.
I was
But
gonna say.
never going to happen again. So Michigan, if they beat Auburn, I think they could beat State if they can prove it. I think Michigan is a very hard matchup for Auburn. I'll get into that later. I do think Auburn has the edge, but I could
Okay.
easily see Michigan moving on if they can play down low, not turn the ball over, get the ball to Golden. But you just have too many teams. They're very smart with Golden. They just let him score all the points because if Golden has 20 points, but Michigan can't shoot, and that's their only points of the game, really, then they're not really doing anything. So he has to be able to dish it out when he has people on him to the open guy who they're going to have around the arc when everyone swarms him. And they were able to do that against A&M and get everyone like Gale going off. And if we have more of that, if they play like a team, then I think they could move on.
Definitely. Now, staying in round one, favorite game out of round one, all the games we had, there were so many. I had like 15 screens up at once. I was in the sports book in the Bahamas, enjoying some Bahama Mamas and enjoying college basketball. What do you guys think from your perspective was your favorite game in round one?
Ooh, man. For me, as a Michigan fan, everyone picked UC San Diego in the country. And to see Michigan come out there, prove that they were underseeded, that was really sweet for me. And I think McNeese winning was very special with their NIL student manager leading the team on. I wish they made it to the Sweet 16. But I just think there were so many games, despite not being chalky, or despite being a very chalky first round. I just think that there were so many exciting games that a lot came down to the wire. There weren't as many major blowouts. Even if there were, they were coming at the end of games. There were a lot of games that were close at halftime, which is always.
I would say by close, I mean, you guys, I know Pop hates this man, but the Kansas-Arkansas game would probably be my game of the week.
Yeah.
Coach Cal taking down your boy, Hunter Dickinson.
I'm so happy they did. I'm so happy I'll never see Hunter Dickinson on a college basketball court ever again. Maybe a court overall ever again. The dude basically said to Michigan, go pound sand. I'm going to a better program. And then subsequently goes, I think, 2-5 in this tournament record with the
yeah,
Jayhawks.
I saw this stat line. Yeah, the stat line is Pre-Hunter Dickinson, Kansas had not lost in the Big 12 for the past 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
With the 2 years they've had him, they have finished no better than 5th place and not made it past the second round of the tournament.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I mean,
tough.
I
It's almost
I-
like they've proven that playing through one big man is not winning basketball past 1997.
Well,
You
one
know,
thing I will say is it is proven winning basketball against Michigan State. Just going to throw that out there. It
Yeah.
continues to work. Hunter Dickinson versus MSU.
it does.
Unfortunately, he
I
did
was gonna
not get
say,
matched
you
up.
guys probably would have beat us. Hey, you guys would have beat us if you had Hunter Dickinson this year. Let's be real.
See, if we didn't have if we had Hunter Dickinson, I don't think we'd have Golden or Wolf on this team because I think he's such a ball hawk and a attention whore when it comes to the game of basketball. He wants the ball consistently. That his need for it would.
And Golden doesn't.
I mean, but we run the offense because it's covered. I mean, I don't think people respect Golden as far as a big man. As Pat was saying earlier, let him score 20 points. It's 22s. It's not, he's not hitting threes. So it's like, it is what it is. But I really
Full
do
respect
think,
on Chase Richardson's name. His dad literally played 25 years ago with Tom Izzo, and they won a national championship.
Mhm.
Let's run it back with his son.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as the little brother mentality, you guys almost got taken down by New Mexico State. That was a close game at some point. You guys went on a few runs, which I'll give you that. But I think New Mexico State in the first round has to be my favorite game. It was
Marquette's a fraud.
Marquette, yeah, exactly. And that was one of the things I was kind of looking at. I'm like, I like the Rebels. I like that mentality they have. I thought it was
Rebels.
really good play from
The
their
Lobos.
front court,
Lobos.
especially in a guy like Donovan Dent scoring, I believe, 21 points in that game. He had, an excellent game. Besides that, he had 6 assists and 3 rebounds and 2 blocks. He shot 87% from free throws. One of the things in this tournament, if you make your free throws, historically, you will win games. And I think,
He
obviously,
does a good job about that.
yeah, but that was my favorite game coming out of round 1.
All right. So I'm going to agree with you on the Marquette, New Mexico. I was actually at that game. I was at the doubleheader, the Marquette, New Mexico, and then State Bryant. A lot of fun back and forth. We were fortunate enough to be around fans of both teams, so we were getting the back and forth, which was really great. One thing I think New Mexico did really well is they were trying to dump it into the post, and Marquette every single time went for the steal and would miss it pretty much every single time, and you just catch the ball, turn to the bucket, easy layup almost every single time. And I think that's really something that helped them separate and get away from that game, because there was a point where Marquette really did make a run, and you're sitting up there in the stands and you're kind of going, ooh, this could get away from New Mexico at this point. But I think they have a lot of talent for a mid-major, and I think they were able to do a great job pulling away, playing through their strong suits, getting it done.
Who are your guys' key players?
All right, so my big player for the first opening weekend of the tournament, I got to go with JT Toppin for Texas Tech. Posted a pair of double-doubles. In his game against Drake, he went with 25 and 12 on 85% shooting. I think it was 11 for 13. I know it wasn't necessarily the top-tier competition. You're looking at 2 double-digit seeds, but he was instrumental in getting them to where they are. He's been a hell of a player all year. Another one, though, I want to throw out there, you got to mention Derek Queen out of Maryland. I think it was a travel. I know we talked about that earlier. By rule, it's a travel because there is no gather step in college. That being said, they never call it, so I understand why it was let go, especially in that situation. But at the end of the day, he hit the shot that kept Maryland in the tournament, so I think he at least deserves a shout-out, along with JT Toppin.
I agree.
Speaking of foul play, and so to speak, what do we think about the whole dunk after the buzzer situation with the Wisco game? A lot of people were saying that if you dunk after a game, it's technically a technical, which in turn would cause Wisconsin to have 2 free throws, inevitably potentially tying the game.
Oh man, controversy
Yeah.
strikes again.
I would have to check the rules, but yeah, I mean,
'Cause-
if that's what the rules do say,
It wasn't called though. That's the issue.
Yeah, it's hard to go back and call that after, but
Mhm.
if that's the case, then man, that's bad.
Yeah, that I mean, despite them not calling the Maryland that on that play travel, I'm looking up another. Just looked it up online, and actually another story came up about Queen's University upsetting Florida Gulf Coast in the quarterfinals of the ASUN tournament. Um, and there was a similar thing that happened like that, and people were complaining about it. So I mean, shame on the NCAA for if that is a rule and if that would have changed the outliers of the game. Like I understand it comes down to it. It's like one of those things that you don't want to see a play like that called to change the aspect of a season and a game, a trajectory of a team. Like I disagree with that. I think the game shouldn't be decided on one call. But like we had this discussion, I believe in the earlier in the year in football about like instances where one call would have changed the trajectory. Think about the Rams when Jared Goff was a sophomore quarterback. If that play was called pass interference, which should have been, that would have changed the trajectory of his career.
Oh my god, that call was the most egregious thing on planet Earth.
Yeah, but I mean, you
So,
can make like
guys,
for
I looked
Colorado
it up,
State,
and I looked at the video. Time had well expired. People were on the floor after he tossed it off the glass and threw it down. And that is, by definition, a technical foul. You cannot dunk it during dead ball period or after the buzzer.
wow,
That
what
is
do
a
we do
technical
at
foul.
NCAA?
that's I mean,
does it
That's
say
bad.
after the buzzer as in a shot clock or as in the
It was
game?
the whistle. It was already after the whistle.
Because
I'm
I
not
have to wonder if there's a variance because the game is over.
yeah,
Because if we're
Even
talking
still.
the buzzer at halftime, that's one thing because you have another half to play. So Pat, if you could, I guess I could.
It was at the end of the game.
yeah. That I mean, again, that's just sticky situations you find yourself in these tournaments. It's difficult. Like you have like a, Cam Scadabout in Texas. ASU in Texas game. That was like again up in the air for many calls. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, if you're a ref, you don't want to interject yourself into these games. I think it's smart on the NCAA to kind of let these things play out, especially after a game. I agree with you, Josh. I think if it was at half, then it is time to tee up a guy. But since it is at the end of the game, I think you let it go.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think by rule, the game's over
Yeah.
at that point.
so then why are we dunking? Why are we literally trying to throw it off the
Oh,
backboard
it
and try to dunk it?
100% is an unsportsmanlike move. But I think when the game's over, there's nothing you can do to the actual game that's already occurred.
Right. Yeah,
You can
yeah.
consider something a penalty like a suspension. I'm not saying he should be suspended for this. I think that would be a very weak suspension in the tournament. But
Right, but just
that's what you start
still.
looking towards. Because once the game is over, the game is over. I don't think you can go back and change things, even if you missed them. Because hindsight's 20/20. We're not living in a world of hindsight bias.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Now back to the matter at hand. What do you guys picks for the first? Your key players in the first and second round. Who do you got?
My pick, I think you can't have this list without mentioning Richie Saunders from BYU. I know we just talked about the controversy of the game, but having 25 points, leading BYU over Wisconsin, I just think that at that point, having a team, Wisconsin, a great team that many people predicted as a team that could actually go pretty far in the tournament, despite losing to Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. Richie Saunders had a great weekend, a great opening weekend. He's back home, soaking in the victory. And I think along with that, you have to mention LJ Cryer for Houston. They're getting it done, and he's racking up like 30-point games, and he's
a
30
transfer,
points through the first two, but just solid minutes consistently. scoring, making his free throws. Just a guy that's kind of leading Houston from the back burners.
Yeah, definitely. I think, even after that Wisco game, I think BYU was soaking in the glory a little bit too. So it'll be interesting to see if they can, maybe get some bubbly and soak in that. If they win the national championship, would be crazy. But for my
A lot of
kind
root
of,
beer being drank.
oh yeah, the Mormons, they can't
Fuck
drink.
the
Forgot about the Mormons. The rules they have. I think a
Joseph Smith,
player
we
that
have failed you.
you know, isn't really talked about due to like people like Cooper Flag. Therese Proctor, I think he had a big weekend. He's a junior guard. Proctor hit 7 for 8 from 3-pointers over Baylor, which was totaled 44 points over the weekend. I thought that was a great stat line for him. It really shows the versatility of a Duke's offense. They're looking stellar as we move along this tournament. I mean, they're looking like the unsung juggernaut that I thought, and I think a majority of us in this room thought they were. What do you guys think about Duke's chances of winning this entire thing?
I think for me personally, they've become the favorite. I think I had Florida slightly above them coming
Okay.
into the tournament because of the SEC tournament and how they played in that. But the way Duke's playing, especially with Flag back and healthy, the way the surrounding cast is playing, you mentioned Proctor shooting out of his mind, 21 points off threes alone. There's so much firepower that even if someone's having an off day,
Yeah.
it doesn't usually matter for them because there's just so much more production being swept into the game. It's going to be very, very hard for someone to go toe to toe with them for 40 minutes and come out with a win.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. Now let's move on here to go for it.
So I think my picks, I have 8 picks for the games here. For BYU Alabama, I'm going to go BYU plus 4.5.
Oh wow.
I think their defense not cracking the top 100. BYU can score and they can shoot, and I think they're a better disciplined team. Their fast pace, I think, should be able to edge past Alabama or at least keep it very close. That's why I'm going BYU plus 4.5. Maryland, Florida minus 6.5. I'd almost hit Florida money line as well. I think it's
Okay.
going to be an under play. They're very, very efficient defensively, and they make their field goals and 3-point percentage. So at the end of games, they can put people away when they have to foul if it's close. I personally don't think it's going to be, but I think if it is, they can put teams away. Duke is just going to blow out Arizona, in my opinion. Minus 9.5 is an easy bet.
Okay.
Top 10 in offense and defense, and top 10 in field goals. Duke is just, as we were just talking about, they're a wagon and they're the favorite. Arkansas, I think this game, I'm going to take them plus 5.5 against
Oh,
Texas
wow.
Tech. And I'm also going to lean the under. I think both teams are very strong defensive teams. So I'm looking for a gritty basketball game. Moving on to Michigan State, Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a very strong team. I just think Michigan State is a little bit tougher. I think it's going to be a tough game, very close. I'm going to go Michigan State money line and the under.
Okay.
Now, Kentucky, Tennessee, it's very hard to beat a team 3 times, and Tennessee has beaten Kentucky twice already, but I think they can do it again.
It's the other way around.
Other way around.
Has Kentucky beaten Tennessee twice this year?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
That changed your
so
betting mind,
Your
or
logic's right. Your logic's right.
No,
So
yeah.
you're going Tennessee?
Yeah, no, I'm still saying Tennessee. That was just a factoid added onto there. That didn't really factor into my rankings here.
But
And then
no,
Michigan, Auburn. I'm going to go Auburn minus 5.5, and I'm going to hit the over on 145. I unfortunately think that Auburn is going to roll past Michigan.
okay.
If making a pick on the game, I love Michigan. I really hope I'm wrong. This is also called an emotional hedge. I bet on Auburn, hoping that Michigan wins, and if Michigan wins, you just paid for Michigan to win. So you got to have those hedges in there sometimes. And my last pick, Purdue and Houston. I think that Purdue actually is going to play a very close game, and I'm going to take them plus 3.5. And I'm also going to take the under. And if you're picking money lines, I'd almost lean Purdue. I think they match up great against very tough teams. And I think Purdue is still a very strong perennial team that can get shit done. And I think that might be one of my big upsets. I'd lean. I wouldn't go money line, but if you had to make me pick, I would lean Purdue money line. But I would shoot Purdue plus 3.5. And let's dream, fellas.
That's what this tournament's about, right? You got those Cinderella stories. Speaking of Cinderellas and stuff, who are you guys as champs and chumps of this weekend? Who you think is going to be kind of the perennial underdog that pulls through, and who do you guys think is going to be the guy who, the team that should win but loses this weekend? Who do you guys got for those takes this week?
Well, I think my chump right off the bat is Houston.
Okay.
I think you can get past them. I think not all the 1 seeds can go all the way. I mean, maybe we're gonna have the craziest year ever. They're very good, but I think one or two of them
This would be the year it happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the year that's gonna happen.
But we can't. No, it just can't happen. I hate to believe that. The stats don't agree with you, and I think Purdue could win. So I think that makes Houston my chump, and I can't double up on that game. So I think that my champ is going to be Duke. I think if you blow out Arizona, you really solidify yourself as the favorite, and I think that just puts you as in the conversation of, all right, everyone has to look out for Duke. They're kind of just walking through this tournament.
Yes, but
they just have many strong players on that team. Too much help.
Yeah, here's my thing though. If you are Duke, you play Texas Tech next round. That Texas Tech team is a scary defensively.
That would be Florida.
Where's it Florida?
That would be Florida.
Okay.
Duke would be BYU or Alabama.
I like that matchup for Duke, man.
Yeah, but
it's Duke to the Final Four for me.
At least.
Yeah, I think my chump is gonna be Bama. I think BYU matches up really well with them. I'd have to check again. There's a guy like Ryan Hammer. He's a big college basketball guy on TikTok and Twitter and stuff like that. He does a metric called the trapezoid of excellence, which is team efficiencies, stuff like that. And Alabama is an outlier and usually is under their current regime based on the way they play. And their explosiveness really takes them as far as it can. But BYU is a team that throughout the season didn't really play into the trapezoid, but over their last 10 has played as a team that would fit the criteria. So I think having that matchup, a trapezoid team against Bama, I think Bama goes down, gets upset. I think BYU soaks it in another round.
I've been saying it all year. Bama's a fraud. Bama's a fraud from day one, and I will live by that until they're out. I mean, I was telling Pop this earlier in the year. I'm like, yeah, Bama's a fraud. They're gonna lose to Tennessee. Pop looks at me. He's like, yeah, you're crazy. And Zach, our friend's just like, no, you're absolutely out of your mind. The very next day, Tennessee beats them by 15. I'm like, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, yeah, I 100% agree. Teams with Alabama's defensive abilities and defensive rankings very rarely go on far into this tournament. Alabama has been an outlier just based off how good their offense has been. But almost always teams with Alabama's defensive ranking go out early. They're going to go as far as their offense can take them. Yeah, and I don't see that being more than one round. And right now I have it at 0.
I would totally agree. They're in 2. I mean, the only like you said, their offense is good, and if they play like a Michigan State team or like, I'm surprised St. Mary's didn't screw them. But like if they play a Texas Tech team or any team of that caliber, they're getting shut. They're getting completely shut. The door shut. I mean, we saw it when they played Auburn the first time. Auburn with Johnny Broom just shut the door on them, and once Mark Sears got quiet, Bama was gone.
Yeah. I've been sitting here debating my champ and chump of the week. Now, based
Sleep
off
my
my
champ, by the way.
based off my research here on Florida versus Maryland, okay? Maryland has won 18 games against the spread this season, while only failing to cover 16 times. Pat, you said this was going to be a close game. I'm going the Maryland Terrapins over the Florida Gators. Let's roll. I think Derek Queen's going to have a big game, and I think this will be a crazy upset. It's going to be a good game overall. I just think that I like the Terrapins in this. They played hard and they played in close games. They know they can come up clutch, and they think they realize they're a little weak. Have a weak buy into this. And they're going to prove a lot of people wrong in this game. And then
Okay.
obviously my
You like the conference,
yeah, and then
I mean,
obviously
gotta have some upsets.
yeah. I mean, you can't all have one season.
You'd hope.
That's like sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying you'd hope you'd have upsets, but
I was gonna say MSU's my champ in this.
Yeah. Same here, but and then my other like kind of guaranteed probably upset, Arkansas. Obviously, the teams they've run through, Kansas, St. John's, I think they're gonna run all over Texas Tech. So I think it's my guarantee. But I had to go a little bold and say Maryland over Florida. So I think you're gonna have Arkansas versus Maryland for that Elite Eight spot. Who do you guys got going the rest of the way? How does your brackets kind of work out here as we kind of move along the road to the Final Four? What do you guys got?
Well, I think it's very easily that Duke is going on. I have Florida. I think could make a run to the Final Four.
Okay.
I think they're going to move past Maryland. Michigan State, I think they're going to win the next round. They're going to make it to the Elite Eight. And I don't think that that Michigan is going to be surviving past Auburn, and I don't think that Michigan State is going to be surviving past Auburn either. But that is just me.
Okay.
I think Auburn is a powerhouse.
And then who's your fourth?
Man, it's man, at this point in the tournament,
It's either Tennessee, Purdue, Houston.
I know. I almost want to go Tennessee. I think they're going to go on a little bit of a run. Why not?
Yeah.
I think Tennessee can beat Kentucky, and I think Tennessee. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. I think Tennessee is going to upset some people, and I think they're going to go to the Final Four. Let's do it. Let's lock.
Okay, locking that in.
All right, mine. One of mine is already gone. Wisco did me dirty, but I have Wisco. I have Texas Tech because I think Texas Tech defensively can take down Duke. I have Florida losing as well. My only one seed coming out into the Final Four is Auburn. There, I say this, I do see if Michigan State plays the way they've been playing and shutting teams out with a big enough lead in the second half, Auburn is definitely in trouble. Because Michigan State doesn't, yes, we almost lost to New Mexico, but New Mexico never had a lead in the second half.
Yeah.
It was Michigan State the entire second half. You get within two, Michigan State would shut the door back on you.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, it's a credit to the experience of Tom Izzo and the way he can control that team. They're a little undersized comparatively to like a Michigan having 2 7-footers in below in the paint. But it's like one of those things that like
they rebound like hell.
Yeah, they're quick. They're quick. And I think that's one of the things that people look at Michigan State, oh, they're undersized, but sure, they're quick and they can move around you. I really like how they move the ball. They attack when they get on the break.
They can get you in foul trouble easy.
easily. And that's where I see, an Auburn team getting frustrated. They played a very tough SEC schedule. And it's one of those things that if Michigan State can pester them like little brother knows how to do to a big brother, then they can kind of keep the momentum going and keep going. I got Michigan State moving on to my Final Four.
Tennessee in my final, I forgot to say.
Yeah. And then off of my picks here, like say Maryland moves on, I have Florida in my bracket moving on to the Final Four there. And then I have obviously Duke moving on to my Final Four, and I have a Houston team moving on Duke and Michigan State. No, sorry, Houston and Duke, and then Florida and Michigan State for that Final Four bracket. But I think out of like the two teams I said earlier, Arkansas and Maryland, if that happens, say we have that upset, I think it's going to be the Terrapins moving on to the Final Four, a little Big Ten matchup, why don't you, for that national championship bout. And then I have Duke versus a Michigan State and MSU, the Spartans, winning it. As a Michigan fan, if Michigan goes out, personally, I think I'll root for the Spartans. I'm kind of cheering them on. They don't play Michigan in that, in about a week here for the Elite
We
Eight.
might play each other.
Yeah, we might. Never know, but I'll be rooting for Michigan past there if Michigan
Of
gets to
course.
play Michigan State. But other than that, I think it'll be a heck of a tournament on the way out. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be basketball.
I gotta get my picks in, but
Definitely.
I'm having a hard time betting against the ones right now, and I had a hard time coming in. As boring as it is, these teams feel so much better than the rest of the field to me. That being said, if I was going to throw some outliers in there, I think Texas Tech could cause some trouble for Florida. Really great defensive team. Love JT Toppin. And I could see the winner of Kentucky, Tennessee causing Houston some problems. I think Houston at this point is the one I'm most concerned about just because of their tempo and their style of play isn't really built for success in March. Kind of the opposite to the way Alabama's is. They have a slower pace, and that can really come back to bite you. If you get down early and you're trying to claw out of a hole the whole game, it can be very difficult. So I'd probably see Tennessee there, but I really wouldn't be surprised to see 4-1 seeds in the Final Four, as shitty as it would be.
Yeah, that would be heartbreaking to all the people who really don't want to see the powerhouses of powerhouses make it. I want a little drama. I want a little excitement.
My bracket, one of the brackets that I made, that's all the favorites, just going off of your seed, and then in the Final Four, the 4-1 seeds, the strongest overall seeding, so it has Auburn winning. That bracket currently is sitting at 89%.
Oh, wow.
So that just speaks to how chalky of a bracket we are having,
It's
folks.
so depressing. Like,
Really
I saw
is.
TikTok earlier saying the script writers literally threw away their upsets and buzzer beaters into the script, and they're like, "Oh, I forgot to put that in." It's like,
Yeah, they wrote this season during the writer's strike.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Got
they
the
got
replacement writers.
yup.
definitely. Well, hopefully the replacement writers threw some shocking wins in there for a Maryland and a Michigan team. But we'll see this upcoming weekend. I want to thank everyone for joining the call, and thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoy this exciting tournament as much as we are. Good night, folks.